What's good, everybody? Doing another video talking about the Outriders and really this concept. I just did a video talking about this that went on my main channel, the Young Ripper 59 main channel. And then the one I did before that on a similar subject was on the entertainment channel, which is what you're watching right now. And now I'm just kind of following up on some things that I kind of left out on the previous video. Let's give these people context for you guys who have or need to get caught up. The first big patch for Outriders came out, and one of the big things that it did was nerf basically the other build. So there weren't really any buffs, not to the at least the player and type of classes that they have, but they brought down some of the other ones, specifically the ones dealing with more DPS and what have you. One of them being my build. Now a lot of Redditors, which I say is where games go to die, got upset with that. Not just Redditors, but you get what I'm saying. But they got upset because they looked at it like, well, and this is what you're going to hear a lot of. Don't nerf the other builds, buff the other ones. And to that I say, why? See, they wrongfully, albeit, assume that the problem was with, let's say, builds like or classes that like such as the Devastator being too weak. When I would make the argument that it was the problem isn't necessarily with that build, it's with the other builds that are so strong. I saying this is one of them, it's busted. Particularly ones like mine that have the twisted rounds. It's busted. That is a busted move. I agree wholeheartedly. And this is why I'm okay with the nerf. I think, as I mentioned in previous videos, the direction that Outriders is going is that it wants its content to be, you're always striving for something there. It's in-game content, but most importantly, it wants it to be difficult. Meaning that not everybody is going to have level 50 legendary, simple as that. Or not certainly early on in this game cycle. I mean, the game really just came out for the most part. We're in a weekend? And not everybody is going to get it. And they're making that, that's clearly what that is. And in bringing them down, it's still balancing. But for some people say, well, you don't nerf the OP builds, you bring them up. Now, effectively, you got two people. Some people that prefer that, and the other people that say effectively the same thing. No, they're not. Because you're saying that if they go the direction of buffing the one that's down, you're saying that there's nothing wrong with the other characters. But if you nerf them, you're saying that the one, that's where everybody is more so supposed to be. Now, what I wanted to put on your mind is, and this is where I think they messed up, and this is what the argument that I made early on, I knew people weren't going to see this, is that this game, there's a reason why all those different classes do their certain things. And that was something they clearly paid a lot of attention to. And I appreciate that, in that they do different things. Most importantly, in a team setting. And what you're having happen right now is a lot of people that exclusively play this game solo. This is why the accessibility can absolutely ruin your game. You could have your game be accessed by too many people. But what happens is obviously higher DPS builds are going to be more advantageous, are going to have more advantages in a solo setting. In a time trial, for those of you that don't understand that the expeditions, which are the in-game content, the whole goal is that you got gold, silver, and bronze, and they're all based on time completion. I don't necessarily disagree with that, and I don't necessarily hate that. Yes, if you have a DPS build and you're playing solo, that's obviously almost the only way to play it. You're not going to be able to beat it in gold. Though, why you have to do that, I disagree. I mean, yes, the whole idea is that if the better you finish, the better loot you get, but it's not impossible. We finished bronze on one deal, and I got a legendary the other day, so it's not like it can't happen. It's just obviously you're gonna have a lesser chance of it happening, which is, it is what it is. But with me picking up on what they were talking about with the expeditions prior to the game being released and how they really emphasized 3 people in this setting, obviously, if you are playing with other people that know what they're doing and know what their specialty is, you can get through stuff relatively easy. We did that through the beginning of the game. I didn't have a high DPS build when I went through tier 14 and beating the last all these bosses and stuff like that. Mine was more applying status damage and saving Nappa's ass in the event that he died, because he's the one doing most of the DPS and what have you. So it wasn't that I wasn't useful. You mean to tell me that like the space, definitely for the guys that that shoot, but I do the little bubble thing, and it's slowing down the bullets, which is a very cool mechanic, by the way. Isn't useful. You're crazy. Hell, it was because of that we got through that the shield wall or the shield bubble thing. But I was thinking, like, wait a minute, if they're playing it solo, they don't even understand that. They don't even understand. They're not even picking that up. And that's where they may have messed up. I think the last expedition, if I'm not mistaken, the one that's in the Eye of the Storm, you have to play with 3 people, but everything else you can play solo. So if you're playing solo and you got nerfed, for example, you may be looking at that and being mad. Now, again, it's not just because it's not how I play. I don't mind it. It seems like the whole point is that not everybody's going to access it. To me, they're telling you that. And this is why I hope to God they don't listen to the Redditors, because the Redditors are always going to prefer what's easier. Like people always, like they say, don't nerf down don't nerf the other builds that are OP, buff the other ones. Which again, that's essentially bringing the line up to make it easier instead of the nerf. That's exclusively what the buff means, right? Is that there's nothing wrong with the guys or the classes that have all of that power. Whereas to the nerf, what that means is that those are actually overpowered. And yeah, you can't do stuff, but that was how it was supposed to be. Now, of course, you can't expect them to look at it like that because, hey, definitely a lot of we live in this, I don't want to say it's the participation trophy thing. Maybe it is, but it is the accessibility thing. And whether people think that their angle is the only angle. I don't want to play multiplayer, blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. People can fly probably messed up and did themselves in by trying to make this whole deal expedition. They probably should have did 2 to 3 players, period. Because then at least then you're going to see that dynamic exist from the get-go. And because that dynamic always exists, well, here you go. It's going to force the user to have to make an adjustment and even bounce those ideas off of their teammate. It's not going to be a unanimous thing. It's not going to be like this build is always effective. No, it may be effective, but you're especially going to have to be working with other people. And it's all about the dynamic because that's the point. This is a team-based. They bragged about that. Go look at the expedition video, and they talk about how they talk about all of that stuff, and that's important. But if you're playing solo, you're never going to see that. So maybe that's where I will say if there is a spot that they messed up, it was there. I don't have a problem with the time trials. I don't have a problem with the nerfs. I'm one of the builds that got nerfs. Perry seems to want to be in the shot. I got one of the builds that got nerfed. I don't mind it. I don't mind nerfing. I actually prefer that for most games, nerf as opposed to buffs because I like the challenge. I certainly like the challenge. It's not pigeonholing me. I could go DPS, but if I don't want to play that, I don't necessarily have to. And yes, I have to adjust my play based on it. And it needs to be a hand and glove fit with my teammate, but that's okay to me. But for other people, definitely if they're playing solo, they look at that as a crime. So, okay, I can't fly through this anymore. Why would you nerf it? Well, because your build was the problem. And some people, unfortunately, don't want to accept that. Maybe the Devastators weren't the issue. The Devastators not being as strong wasn't the problem. Maybe y'all's builds were just too strong. And the Devastator was playing the game in a way that it was supposed to be played. Or rather, their impact of the game was more so that approach. It wasn't in the approach that it was. And this is why the nerfing happened. There's certain gamers that will not concede that, ever. I will say this. If they do listen to Redditors, this game is going in the tank. It's going to be too easy, and I'll be off of it. And some people may not. That is what it is. But I think this is another example where there's a fork in the road here for the developers. They can listen to that community, ruin the game, right? Ruin the game, accessibility community. Or they can say, okay, we have a core game design. You're not a game designer. And you don't necessarily see that concept. We get the feedback from the community, and there are certainly objectively things that we need to fix. Inventory issues and stuff. Of course, there's criticisms that are legitimate with the game that doesn't matter what your concept design. But the core concept design, which is really what we're arguing here when we're talking about nerf build for an online game. No matter if you play it solo, the idea is that your Outrider is alongside other people, so it doesn't matter. Either way, when you look at it in that perspective, absolutely. Absolutely, like they have to draw a line, and if the concept design and what you advocate ruins that, they have to hold the line. You may not ever get it. It may take you a while. The game just came out. But we'll see what happens. But if they listen to them damn Redditors, I'm watching another game get destroyed in real time.